SBR Videos is sponsored by Sports Cash System. Click on the link below for more information. Welcome to SBR Forum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak, and with the NFL regular season just around the corner, we are discussing futures odds with Stephen O from EventDataServices.com. Stephen O used to model genetics. He used to be a genetic programmer, and now he's decided to devote his talents to handicapping the NFL. Stephen O, thanks for being back with us.
Thank you very much for having me, and it's a lot more fun, and I think it contributes more to society.
Yes, me too. Genetics is incredibly stupid. I know a couple of geneticists. They're always like talking about it, and I'm always like, dude, just shut the hell up. It's just like
Earth is only 5,000 years old.
falling asleep. Yeah. All right. So, Stephen O, before we get into the Super Bowl futures odds, which is what we're going to talk about right now, tell us a little bit about what you do at EventDataServices.com.
Well, I was the chief programmer here, and I programmed the play-by-play simulation that's been optimized for gambling. By that, I mean it's a credited system that easily identifies our best picks. So, for example, we consider any pick where our forecasted line is at least 3.5 points apart than the betting line as a high confident pick, 3.5 points being more than a field goal. And those high confident picks were hitting at around 57% clip the last 2 seasons. So once we had a full body of data and we felt confident that our system was not doing anything, just a one season fluke, we have gone public now with this new service and new company that's, again, relatively private in terms of our total client base is going to be relatively limited. But I would love if plenty of SBR people help join up. And if you go to our eventdataservices.com/registration and type in the access code of SBR, I'll make sure that your members can join up.
All right, that sounds awesome, and I'm very excited to be having you as a regular weekly guest previewing games for this year's regular season. All right, Super Bowl futures odds. We just got finished discussing the futures odds to win the AFC and the NFC, so I'm assuming your opinions are going to be very similar for the futures odds to win the Super Bowl. There's 4 teams right now at Pinnacle with odds under 10-1 to win. The favorite is the Niners at a little bit less than 5-1. Then we have Denver at about 5.5-1, Seattle at 6.5-1, and then the Pats at plus 832. Now, just like I said with the AFC futures odds, I think Denver at plus 546. That's got to be overvalued. Niners and the Seahawks, not exactly sure, and the Pats, I'm not sure what you're going to say. Out of those 4 favorites, what are your opinions on the lines?
Yeah, first, one note about Denver. The upgrades they made, I don't see them as big upgrades. Wes Welker may have a lot of catches, but statistically, from a per target basis, he's not any more productive than Brandon Stokely was. And in Denver, and Denver's problem is not their offense and their ability to score. So when they upgrade their running game through the draft or get Wes Welker, I don't see that making that team better. The losses they had on defense, Dumerville leaving and Von Miller suspension, and the fact that I'm not one of these guys who like to talk about hearsay or inside information, but I have a pretty good authority on someone who had lunch with John Fox a few weeks after the Ravens game, and he told an interesting story about Peyton being his arm being totally dead during that game, and that's why they didn't go for it with 30 seconds to go and a couple timeouts. And I just don't see that situation changing. I see Denver, again, as you point, being overvalued there. And the pick that I have out of the AFC, I had 2 picks, so it's Houston and New England. I think I would take New England as much as I despise the actual team.
Right, plus 832, 4th choice are New England's odds to win the Super Bowl right now at Pinnacle. Houston is plus 1535, so that's significantly better odds. And then you also said that there might be some value with the Redskins. The Redskins are about 42.5-1 to win the Super Bowl. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great. I don't, again, the odds aren't good that you're going to win, but there's certainly value. I think, we would have them closer to a 30-1 shot. I like Washington, and I still like Seattle. I know they're number 2, but we all know, and this is not a statistically grounded statement, but the team that loses the Super Bowl never wins the next year.
Right.
It has happened 41, 42 years, whatever. And I think that Seattle is poised to really come out of the NFC, and they are my favorite probably going into the season overall.
All right, I'm going to quote a few other teams and their Super Bowl futures odds right now, and you can respond to comment on any or all of them if you'd like. Cincinnati at 27.5-1. Some people are talking about them. The Packers at plus 1537 to win the Super Bowl. The Saints at plus 1760, and then the Steelers at 25.5-1. You have anything to say about any of those lines?
I think Green Bay, New Orleans, there's a little value in our system, slight, literally percentage point here and there, but still worth a look.
Right.
I don't like Cincinnati or Pittsburgh. It's not just my Baltimore bias, but I think Baltimore is still better than both those teams. I think Cincinnati, I'm not a believer in Andy Dalton. In the end, that team, when you look at their performance against, top quality competition, they're horrendous, arguably.
Right.
Whether it's their playoff losses in the last 2 seasons or even during the regular season. So I just don't believe that, when it comes to playoff time, they're going to beat 4 quality opponents or 3 quality opponents in a row. Pittsburgh, I think, is going to struggle big time with, I think, an overrated defense. Key players that are either old or fat. I won't name names in case they care who I am. And then Mike Wallace leaving, I think, hurts their offense big time. And, I'm surprised that Pittsburgh gets excited about drafting a running back highly, seemingly every other year. And, it never seems to help them regain their whole, dominant form running the ball. So I don't like either of those teams. Any team that's in a 3-way race to win their division isn't going to have a high probability of making the playoffs, relatively speaking. Cincinnati, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, they're all around 40% chance of making the playoffs.
All right, so if I had to pin you down to make 2 picks, one on a favorite to win the Super Bowl and then a long shot with some value, what would they be?
Seattle and Washington.
Seattle plus 664 currently at Pinnacle, and Washington plus 4243 currently at Pinnacle. Stephen O from EventDataServices.com. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next week with Week 1 game previews.